Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by the one, Sleeping Warrior, Paul, Ranty, is that Chocolate Sane and 10th Man, I believe?
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, that's Paul.
No, it's Paul and Righteous.
guys.
Sorry, you were both sharing. It's Righteous Force. My bad. Hey, Righteous.
Good morning, Nathan.
Hello, hello. We're also joined by a whole bunch of people in
Nathan.
Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, Nathan. Can you answer me? Why do you presuppose a necessary?
Can't hear you. You're cutting off the ends of your own sentences. Shout out to Earth is Seriously Flat for
I'm
smashing
sorry.
the super chat before the show even began. Really appreciate your support. We also shouted you out in the pre-show. Thank you very much for your support, Earth is Seriously Flat. Subscribe to Earth is Seriously Flat. He does actually produce videos, so check him out. I mentioned it today because his last video was something like talking about geoengineering, and then he marked in the title specifically for children, which I didn't really understand. I think it's a poke at copper. I don't really know. But nevertheless, click on his buttons, 3 dots, go subscribe to Earth is Seriously Flat. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from Bishop.
No, Nathan, can I ask you this? Well, do your housekeeping.
Feel free to answer. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Yeah.
Not on a flat plane.
Fill us in, Chris.
Soundly shows the curve. Soundly.
Sound shows what?
The curve.
Where?
Pontchartrain, I guess.
Lake Pontchartrain.
You do realise there's shore-to-shore observations in the same location, don't you?
Well, I just posted some GIFs in the Discord there, and anyone cares to look at them. We'll clearly see the.
Hold on one second, Chris. Can someone bring up Chris's post from the Discord server? Anybody who's in the Hangout, please.
I don't have Discord there, Nathan.
Anybody at all? Hey, Owen. Good to have you. So did you hear Ranty's response? Chris, did you hear Ranty's response? Maybe repeat it, Ranty.
Yeah, there are shore-to-shore observations in the same location by different people. If you look at Soundly's work, he always seems to film when it's murky days and inferior mirages.
Okay, that's not true. Soundly's taken these observations in various different weather conditions, different seasons. And if you could give me an example of this shore-to-shore observation that you speak of, I'd happily take a look at it. But if it's the one I'm thinking of, then they didn't use sufficient zoom to get the compressed perspective that's required to see the curvature at Lake Pontchartrain.
Okay, so we're looking at this video of this drone going up and down. Can you see how everything blends into an inferior mirage?
No, I don't.
Why
Are you kidding me?
Chris, why are the buildings moving left and right?
Yes, to answer Ranty's question. yes, you can see at one point that reaches a tipping point, and then you get everything mirage below itself, and then the ground in the near foreground obscures everything in the background. But yes, Renty, you can see the miraging.
Thank you. So he just said that
Maybe I don't know. I can't see it myself. Yes,
well, I'll explain it to you. On the building that's in frame the entire time, the tallest building, next to it there is a black building that mirages upon itself when he lowers in altitude. Very obvious.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. I see that now.
So not curved then.
The presence of an atmospheric optical effects does not negate the curvature you see on.
Oh no, au contraire, in your model it's all a mirage.
Alright, can I, why do you presuppose a necessary antecedent?
There is no presupposition. That's a contradiction in terms. A necessary antecedent is something that is required, as opposed to a presupposition, which is something that you assume.
Never even heard that before. Presuppose and antecedent.
Yeah, it's a contradiction in terms.
What is that? What did I walk into? Good morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate. Good to have you.
Can I say something about the GIFs that they sent?
Yeah, go ahead.
The first one, if you put your mouse in the tallest building on the left side, the top of the building doesn't change when the drone goes down or up. You can see basically the tallest building roof is staying in the same level all the time.
That's interesting.
It might change like 1 pixel or something, but basically the tallest building is staying in the same how you say it, on the same level of this camera, or the camera is focused in that building or whatever, but it doesn't change any, like maybe 1 or 2 pixels mostly. Or
Oh, I just remember some. And Nathan, whatever happened to Chris?
I'm looking at the right left to the building, and I see like the very, very far backdrop there, and I'm seeing that it's pretty much staying at the same relative height until it disappears behind the mirage.
Sure. Arwin, do you know what happened to Chris?
Chris Monkey, you're saying? I believe he became a geocentrist.
Yeah,
No.
whatever happened to the Galileo?
I think he became a geocentrist that believes that the Earth spins rather than the atmosphere spins around it. He believes that the Earth spins.
Hey, Nathan, do you remember when Chris Monk made a model for you with the flat?
Chris, your microphone's terrible.
All right, give me.
So, is this it? Is this your proof of Earth curve? Are we done here?
Yeah, we're done.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
We're done. We have curve. Is that better?
Shut up.
Oh my god.
Any-
No, not really.
Anthony, is that any better?
As if you're out of signal.
Sorry.
No exit.
Those damn satellites, man.
He needs to point the satellite a little different.
Do you want to continue with your housekeeping
You
questions?
don't need to give me permission to run my own show. You just need to shut your mouth, rather than sound checking yourself over and over again. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Axis not found.
No.
Yes.
Been a total fail for Earth curvature. Go ahead. What have you got, Chris?
Foucault pendulum, a satellite observation for Lagrangian point 1, and
Satellite observations from Lagrange.
oh, and ring laser gyro, or what's the other one?
Chris, are you talking about Lagrange point 1 as in the Epic Discover satellite?
Correct.
You know that's a cartoon, right? That's not a real photograph at all.
No, it's a real photo.
No, it's a cartoon.
Yeah, bring it up, Anthony. I have no idea what you're talking about.
He's on about the Epic
So
Discover.
this is just a hand wave dismissal
He's in the middle of talking. He's not. He's in the middle of talking. He's not hand waving. He's in the middle of talking. You shut up. I'm going to give you one last chance, right? I know you appreciate. You're smart enough to detect in his tone that he's about to pummel you. Yeah. So it's not your cue to talk all over every word saying it's a hand wave while he's about to start picking apart your claim. Now, your other two claims for Cult and the ring laser gyro, yeah, I'll unbuckle my pants shortly. But Anthony's picked on something. You don't need to shout over him that he's hand-waving you when he's only just gotten started.
I'm not doing it on purpose.
That means shut up. You weren't talking. Anthony was in the middle of hopefully going to present it. He's saying it's a cartoon. Now, me personally, I haven't got a clue what you're either talking about. But I'd like to actually hear the rebuttal as opposed to hear you talking all over it. So that means shut up. No need for a response. Thank you. Go ahead, Anthony.
It's a cartoon because we can't establish we can't verify the origins of the document that he seeks to rely upon. I'll now present my screen so that we can see it in all of its glory and see that this is actually a cartoon. Now, if Chris wants to argue that it's not actually a cartoon, I'd like to see him support or verify the authenticity of the claim because it appears to me to be a cartoon, and unless he can prove that it's legitimate, then it will remain to be a cartoon until you can prove otherwise. So this is the Epic Discover Lagrange 1 point that Chris seems to rely on, and I'm going to slow it down because it seems to be pretty quick on this one. So my assertion is that this is a cartoon. This is not real footage. This is not really the backside of the moon. It looks very flat. There doesn't seem to be any contours to it. It looks like a cartoon. Chris, how would we prove that this is really taken from Lagrange point 1?
I don't notice any cloud moving either, by the way.
Well, one thing you could do is you can actually get equipment that you can allows you to take the images directly from the satellite without them having to go through, for example, the website first. And that's one way you can do it. But to confirm that they're not cartoons, well, like my argument is, and it's the same for Himawari 8 and Electro is that these agencies, NASA, JAXA, Roscosmos, are under no obligation to provide these images. Like I think Epic's every half an hour, Electro and Himawari every 10 minutes. They're under no obligation to provide these images. And so why would they give themselves so much work? Why wouldn't they just do one a day or one a week or none at all?
Who cares?
You know, so
who cares?
That speaks to their authenticity.
Who cares? Who cares? We don't care. You're appealing to the people who made them and their obligation. It's irrelevant to the actual images and whether or not they're real. So where were these images taken from?
Okay.
Where were they taken from?
Space.
Oh, really?
How do we prove it?
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, they're consistent with reality.
That wasn't your cue to talk. That's a real shame because space is fake. It's a violation of natural law. The gas that we breathe would fill that space. Do you need kicking out? You want me to kick you out?
Do what you want.
You want me to kick you out? So space, the place that no, he does. He wants shutting up and kicking out. The place this photos claim to have been taken from violates natural law. The gas I'm breathing right now would vacate and fill that space. It's an available volume. Entropy would increase. We wouldn't have any gas to breathe if the location of that claimed satellite had been in existence to take this fake picture. So automatically I can deem this picture fake without any further discussion because the claimed origin of the photograph, the camera equipment, was a fake place that doesn't exist. It can't exist. It's a violation of natural law. End of discussion. The other two you raised in terms of axial rotation were the Foucault pendulum and ring laser gyros. Both would be a claimed demonstration of Earth rotating underneath an inertial reference frame. If Earth rotates underneath an inertial reference frame, then drones would drift away from you when they hovered. Aeroplanes would have vastly reduced travel time. For example, a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA would elapse about an hour and a half, because Earth would be rotating underneath in order to create that effect generated by a non-inertial and inertial reference frame. The inertial reference frame being the straight line the pendulum takes, and the claim to be non-inertial spinning reference frame of the Earth rotating beneath it. Well, if Earth rotates beneath the pendulum and indeed the ring laser gyro, which is the same exact claim, then it would also rotate underneath drones, helicopters, bullets, balls, anything that's not attached to the claim to be spinning reference frame, automatically debunking any claim by way of drone, helicopter, and anything else in the air that doesn't have this effect of Earth rotating underneath it.
Okay, Nathan, what's an inertial reference?
I don't need to educate you on what inertial and non-inertial reference frames are.
Well, I would appreciate it.
I don't care what you'd appreciate. This isn't a claim that proves my housekeeping question. You failed twice. I would shut up at this point, because so far, 2 for 2. Now you're talking through me. 2 for 2. You failed. You didn't demonstrate Earth curvature, and you failed to demonstrate axial rotation with 3 examples. So you've had 4 attempts. 1 with Soundly, 1 with this picture from a fake medium, 1 with a ring laser gyro, and 1 with a Foucault pendulum, all of which have now been debunked. So 4 for 4 fails. Time for you to shut up. Any scientific...
Right, but Nathan, you're saying that the reason I've failed is because of inertial reference frames, but I need you to clarify why.
No, I don't. I don't need to clarify it for your dumbass. You need to shut up. You need to shut up.
Boy.
No, I don't need to clarify it for a dumbass. Shut up. Stop talking through me. You failed. If you don't know why you failed, I don't care. I've detailed it enough for anybody with half a brain in the audience to appreciate how badly you've been pummeled. The fact that you're too stupid to appreciate how badly you've been pummeled is not my concern. I'm not going to sit here and go through it in tedious detail for you because you're stupid. That's not what I want to do here. I'm asking a series of questions. So far, 2 of them have been a failure for you to answer. You haven't demonstrated Earth curve and you haven't demonstrated axial rotation. Now, I want to continue with my questions without you appealing to me to educate you so you can simply talk through every bloody word I say. Shut up!
I'm not trying to talk through every word. You just won't let me get a word in. The reason I'm asking you to tell me what an inertial
reference... Shut up. You won't listen or appreciate that I'm telling him to shut up, and why. He just insists that I educate his dumbass. No! Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
Right. Can I just...
What kind?
Can I just point out real quick that this is the second baller that we've had after arguing these things come in and say, I don't understand what an inertial reference frame is. What is... I don't understand. What's going on here now? Is this a new tactic now? Or I don't know what it is. Please explain it. After arguing about it?
Yeah, I can hazard a guess for you, Chocolate. Their side of the argument convolutes reference frames to the nth degree to get around the fact that they must justify why we see no deviation. So they're not going to get an education in what reference frames actually are from their side of the argument. Now, it's pretty clear to anybody with half a brain that we do know what we're talking about when it comes to reference frames. So much so that we can succinctly debunk a moron in about 30 seconds flat by pointing out how a reference frame works and would necessitate if Earth was spinning. Now, if he wants me to educate him, a fundy globehead, who's trying to challenge our assertions that we don't spin, with a claim of reference frames in the Foucault pendulum, and upon it being debunked, asks me to educate him in reference frames, it's outrageous! Go and educate yourself, you complete moron! Don't come here claiming you understand reference frames with an example of Coriolis deviation in a Foucault pendulum, have it debunked, and then ask to be educated? How bloody dare you? Go away and polish your crap argument. Don't ask me to educate you in the debunking you didn't understand. Just demonstrates you didn't understand the claim you were making in the first place. I'm not going to educate you in the claim you don't understand that you're making. What the hell?
And you need to understand optics as well. You just can't come in and quote soundly with his inferior mirage there, because that has been thoroughly debunked.
Soundly?
Soundly,
No.
seriously.
He came with the Soundly in 2019.
Hey, Ranty, what's that
All
picture
right.
you got up?
Oh, this is same place, same location, same height, same tide height, everything, except one was a very clear day and one had an inferior mirage, and it's very evident what actually happens. And what you also notice is these fake waves, these dancing waves that I've talked about quite a lot. Tony, you know what I'm talking about, because they always appear as a darker area right at the very top before you get to the skyline. And what it appears now is you can see this line here going through the top, these dancing waves. There's a very clear line there. And that to me looks like a superior mirage of the sea underneath, beneath the inferior mirage. And if you actually put that line across there and you measure it to what you actually see, it matches up perfectly down to the bottom here. So that is actually a superior mirage of the sea. And then you've got the inferior mirage above it, and everything's blocking out of the buildings. But what this effect is doing is actually increasing the height of the water. So when you think you're looking at the water, you're not actually looking at the water, because the water's been raised up by where my cursor is now, is where the real water line is. And all that above it is fake waves. It's not real waves at all. It's just a superior mirage of the waves underneath.
Yeah, and
the more we
it's
look at
because
this-
you missed one bit. So yeah, it's increasing the level of the water and decreasing your angle to your observation.
Yeah, and essentially you could overlap from the top there down to the bottom, and you could overlap that, and it would end up right there where those dancing waves are. That's exactly where it would end. So what we actually do see in these inferior mirages, we get blockage, physical blockage where you can't see through anything, a mirror image, and you also get a superior mirage of the ocean, which increases the height of the ocean. So it gives you an optical effect that things are dropping behind Earth curve. That's all it is. These people haven't done the research.
Yeah, they're attributing a single cause, Earth curve, based on an R value and are begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. One cause, Earth radius, that's it. Whereas when Life is Short went through Red Pill Philosophy's images, it took him hours and hours and hours and hours to dissect every little detail, and I would imagine that there was 100+ other variables that he didn't even factor in. So the dissection of an observation where there's multiple different things going on that are constantly in flux, it's not as simple as just saying Earth curve. In fact, it's so preposterous and ludicrous to just say, oh, that's Earth curve.
Especially when there's an inferior mirage in. As soon as you see an inferior mirage in the image, you know it's going to be compromised. It's as simple as that.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Thank you, Ranty, by the way. Excellent.
No worries.
We don't know what the sun is.
Or that it is anywhere specifically.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, we cannot have balls inside balls that are rotating.
Any
And to this
viable...
day, they even keep on they keep on reinterpreting what they think is down there.
Can I ask Ranty a question?
Can you wait till the end of housekeeping, unless it's specifically related to the
Sure.
question? Is it related to the question? Because then, yeah, go ahead.
Bloody wait your turn, Chris.
I don't mind if
I
it's...
just said I will.
Oh, okay. Any evidence of any viable hypothesis in any of the fields of cosmology, astronomy, or astrophysics in their entire histories?
Not by Danny.
Say that again?
Not by Danny.
Oh, not by Danny Faulkner. Right.
They don't know how to vary and manipulate the stars.
Right, the presupposition itself. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Yeah, there's definite signs that it's a presupposition. It's an assumption based on the standard model. Shout out to McWest.
I can answer that, but you won't be happy with my answer.
Why would you
Go for it,
presuppose
Chris.
our happiness? Why are you divining our feelings now? Ugh. Carnival, maybe, in your future? Crystal ball,
Okay,
maybe?
so about art, right? So you do know that if you have the circumference of a circle or sphere, you can work out its radius, right?
Yeah, 7.98 inches per mile squared. That's what the radius of the Earth is.
What sphere?
That's not the radius.
Right, but what I'm saying is, right, so
Sorry,
if
the
you're at
circumference.
the North
Sorry,
Pole,
my
right,
bad.
and you're looking at your zenith, you're looking at Polaris, right? Now, for every 69 miles you travel south, Polaris will dip 1 degree, right? And then when you get to the equator, you have a quarter circumference. From the quarter circumference, you can work out the circumference. From the circumference, you can work out the radius.
Chris, bear with me a second.
Chris.
That doesn't give you a curve, that gives you a slope.
It gives you a quarter circumference.
No, it gives you a slope. It gives you a slope.
How so?
What you've just described won't give you a curved line. It will give you a slope.
Do you know what's the difference between a slope and a curved line?
One's curving.
Yeah, there's slope.
Right. So
So
like
you
I
just
said,
described it moving 1 degree.
Sorry.
Sorry, Chris. Maybe I misunderstood. Do you mean that you're measuring that 1 degree based on you assuming you're moving on a spherical surface by any chance?
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
what do you mean, right? Do you mean you third time's a charm? You're going to just insert this presupposition that this measurement's taking place on a spherical Earth to prove a spherical Earth? Wow, Chris, third time's a charm.
Okay.
I'll say it again because he's interrupted. He can tell by my tone he's going to get told off. Yet you don't get to beg the question and just insert this presupposition that you're moving and traversing along a curved surface when you're measuring these lights in the sky. That's your fundamentalist religious belief getting the better of you again and deciding to foist that upon us. Please don't do it a fourth time. For the love of God.
Right, well, let me explain.
Don't explain. Am I asking you to justify it? I'm not asking for an explanation, you dumbo. I've asked you twice the third time. Try and actually listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying, please justify your presupposition of the R value you're trying to prove. I'm pointing out that you've done it and then telling you to shut up, not justify it. You don't seem to be listening and comprehending the words I'm using. I'm pointing out where you're wrong, shutting down your point, and putting a full stop. Not then asking a question open-ended for you to endlessly drone on about your justification in your religious zealotry. I'm not interested in your zealotry. I'm just going to point it out and move on. Stop assuming you're on a sphere, Fundy. How many times?
Okay,
Don't do it a fourth time.
I'll tell you why.
Don't do it a fourth time.
Works in a sphere, Nathan.
Don't assume it a fourth time. You're not listening to my demand, having been wrong this many times.
Nathan.
You're talking through me. I'm making a demand that you don't seem to want to accept. Do not beg the question for a fourth time, Chris. Do you understand? If you didn't listen...
All right, move on. Next
Not move on. Don't give me demands. You don't understand the position of authority I'm holding here. You do what the fuck I say or I kick you out. So, do you understand that you're not to beg the question for a fourth time? I want you to affirm what I've said. If you can't, bye-bye.
I do not accept that.
Well then, bye-bye. You don't get to continually beg the question. Anybody who feels I've been unreasonable to Chris, try to bear in mind that he's had 3 times that he's been told by me directly, and interrupted, of course, because he detected the tone, not to beg the question, to foist upon us his fundy belief in an Earth that's spherical by presupposing it in every bloody example. So we have a slope with his measurement of Polaris until he admits that he's begged the question for the 3rd time in a row and his example takes place on a sphere he's presupposing. Endless interruptions and failure to concede that he won't use that logical fallacy for a 4th time. Yet, time for him to go bye-bye then. because it's not tolerated here. He's had 3 passes. You know, I've been more than reasonable. You don't beg the question here, moron. How many times do I have to tell you fundies? Right, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container?
Nope.
Walk outside.
Well, Nathan, I have an updated claim made by the ballers on this one.
Go ahead.
I was listening to Fight the Flat Earth hangout last night. It was totally off topic, but he did make some on-topic points, and it's worth mentioning them because if this is their current position, let's pull it apart. Fight the Flat Earth claims that they don't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. Do you know how he justifies this? He says 14.7 isn't next to a vacuum. 14.7 psi is next to 14.6, and 14.6 is next to 14.5. And so on and so on and so on until you get down to 0.1, which is next to 0.5, and so on. So he doesn't believe that there's gas pressure next to the vacuum because he believes that all of the lower pressures are containing the higher pressures that are below them, and they're not pushing against them like pressure does. He's treating them as density layers, like as if perhaps we're in a density column and all the air was density layers, just like the cherry tomato. He seems to be adopting certainly my interpretation, my view of what's going on, just my opinion, not necessarily me preaching my view, just my own opinion. But he seems to be adopting that opinion to explain why 14.7 isn't pushing against 14.6 in direct contradiction to what gas actually does. Gas pressure pushes out in all directions. So 14.6 isn't actually stopping 14.7 from pushing past it. It's actually adding to the 14.7, which is adding to the 14.6, which is adding to the 14.5. And all of them are pushing up from the underside because that's what gas pressure does. So, Craig, perhaps you could come up with a demonstration showing how 14.7 or 2 gas pressures next to each other don't mix and are insulated from each other by virtue of their pressure. I look forward to not seeing that and listening to rhetoric instead, because from where I'm stood, all of the pressures within the atmosphere, they're all pushing out in all directions. And the further away from that vacuum they get, the more powerful that pressure is. And we know how powerful the vacuum that we're told is. It crushes containers really, really easily. So it's not true to say 14.7 is next to 14.6 and so on. They're all pushing up together evenly. Well, no, not evenly. They're all pushing up at all directions. And the magnitude is governed by how far away they are from the vacuum. The further away you get, the greater the magnitude, the greater the differential, the more explosive or the implosion is going to be. And guess what? We don't see it. So that literally debunks your model. You just don't understand it. But you think that we don't. Sorry, mate, you're just wrong.
Did he use the word layers?
No, he said 14.7 is next to 14.6. Now, that by numerizing it in that way makes it a layer.
Okay. Yeah, so gas is an anisotropic, inhomogeneous mixture. It does not form layers, so clearly he doesn't understand how gas works. That's the first thing. The second thing is this distribution that we have is to have a good analogy would be to describe a kettle boiling. So where the gas is produced, and our gases here on Earth are produced at ground level, and that's going to be used by similarly with a kettle. So the kettle, if you put the kettle's button down and have it taped to the ground or something so it can't pop when it boils, it just stays boiling permanently. Well, the gas that's coming out of the spout is at the highest concentration at ground level. And the higher you go, the lower the concentration of that gas. So if you put your finger over the spout, you'll get burnt. If you put it 30 centimetres above, it might feel a bit warm. A metre above, you might detect that you've got a kettle below you. A mile up, you're lucky if you find 1 particle. So it's dissipating and getting less the higher you go. Now, we also have all of the different gas cycles, mixing everything up. So inhomogeneous. So he doesn't understand how gas works because he's describing it, as you rightly point out, 14.7 next to 14.6. And well, no, that's not how it works. That's an incorrect analogy because that would imply layers, as you've correctly identified. So, yeah, it's just a misapprehension. The point overall is that if you have your same analogy, the gas that's coming out the kettle eventually will just dissipate into whatever space it's got. Well, if the space it's got is the entirety of outer space, at ground level, immediately going to lose all of that gas that's come out of the kettle spout to space. There won't be any left on the ground. It will dissipate into the space. All of it. Because that's what gas does. Dissipates. Well, in order for it to remain here, it's got to be contained. Otherwise, it will just fill whatever volume it's got to fill. And the same applies for that volume as well. If it's claimed that outer space is a particular volume, but they don't even have a particular space for that. It's ever expanding. But ultimately speaking, gas is just going to disperse into whatever volume it's got. That's gas law. So, yeah, the gas would fill the space. It's just as simple as that.
Craig doesn't think that, though. Craig thinks that gas doesn't dissipate that way because he thinks it can form layers. I don't understand how he can think that. He obviously doesn't have much knowledge on gas pressure. He just believes everything that he gets told in his books. But I demonstrated what happens when you get gas pressure next to a vacuum. It gets immediately, what's the word? Best word? Equalized. I'll use the word sucked into the vacuum. I know because they hate that. We know that vacuums may not suck, but that's what actually happens, isn't it? You see that happening in the same way that you guys see gravity when it's described actually as like something else. It's just
you're talking about a vacuum. The vacuum isn't real. It's not real. The sky is not a vacuum. So all you can then talk about is what is real. Well, gas is real. So again, another different, slightly similar analogy was a pipe. Well, you've got a great big long pipe. It's 5 miles high. And the same analogy is given. You've got a kettle at the bottom of the pipe. And pressure's the amount, the force, and the amount of molecules that are pressing on the walls of the container. Well, if you put your kettle on, same as I did in my last example, there's going to be more particles pressing on the walls of the container near the bottom, where the highest concentration of that gas is being produced. So right near the bottom, right near the spout, that's where your highest pressure is going to be. Well, obviously, midway, 2.5 miles up the pipe, there's no kettle producing that gas there. So how much pressure do you think you're going to have at halfway up the pipe? Well, considerably less. But when you describe it in that way, you can't get your, well, there's 14.7 next to 14.6. It's like, no, there's just less particles up higher to collide with the walls of that container in that analogy. So you've got a lower concentration pressing on the walls of that container, higher up in the pipe. But that doesn't mean that the stuff even higher up still is pressing down on the stuff below. Well, for a start, it was generated at ground level. So to assert that the gas that's made its way from ground level to the top to hopefully bounce off something to keep it here, otherwise it would dissipate into the sky vacuum we don't have, on that journey, it's going to be getting less and less and less and less, more and more and more dissipated, producing less and less and less pressure. But that doesn't mean that the
Nathan,
lower...
they have it backwards. They think that the bricks are holding down the feathers, when it's actually the bricks are at the bottom and the feathers are at the top on this alleged layer of gases.
Yeah, they've got a lower density or lower pressure holding down a higher pressure. Again, you've got high pressure wanting to force its way into the lower pressure, like in my kettle. All that's happening is the high pressure at the bottom wants to work its way up. Not the lower pressure from the top is keeping the higher pressure down. That's the reverse of what's actually happening. Correctly identified by Jibby. Welcome, Jibby, by the way.
You can't reason with these people, Nathan. So anytime you bring up fight the flat earth or whatever like that, there's no reasoning with these people because they have a narrative to put. It's as simple as that. They aren't critical thinkers.
Nathan.
And how does he think any of this is happening? Because of what? Some force that he was told to his face that is not a force? Like, how does he think any of this is happening? How do we have any of this pressure, this gas pressure in the first place?
Because we've got gas.
The question, I can finally come in. The question I had is relating to what the topic. The question I had was the vacuum of space measured or was it calculated? You understand the difference?
We don't have a vacuum of space. The gas would fill it.
I know. I know that. I know that. I'm just saying, but when the claim from the ballers is that's the Tor value of what space is, was that calculated or was that measured?
I see your question now. No, they just make it up. You can do that when you've got an area like Narnia. I can make up anything I like in terms of the mechanics of Narnia, And if you've made up a region that doesn't exist, you can make up the mechanics. You can move the Tor values if you want. You can make it so that the gas pressure extends all the way to the moon if you like. Oh yeah, that is what they did. So you can do what you like. Move the Tor values anywhere. It doesn't matter. Just make them up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sleeping Warrior. You were trying to get a word in there.
Chris MCM's asking if you'd unmute him. He wants to speak, but he doesn't want to interrupt, but he wants to speak, but he's muted.
I don't know why. I was going to kick him out. I've been told not to do that to people in the server, and I agree with not
The
kicking him out,
Christmas
but-
spirit, Nathan.
Well, we're talking about Christmas spirit. He's begged the question 3 times. I've specifically told him not to. What, so he can do it a 4th time?
Yeah, but we all know that you're supposed to help out beggars during Christmas.
It's not Christmas. Fine.
Not
All right, thank
necessarily
you.
beggars, but the poor and impoverished. So globe earthers.
So, will you agree not to beg the question for a 4th time then, Chris? You wouldn't do that.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Well, then you're going back on mute. Fuck you.
Chris, it was going so well.
We don't tolerate begging the question. We stopped it about a year ago.
I might have something to share.
Be my guest. Who's chuckling?
Nathan. It appears that Chris has said that he wasn't going to beg the question. He said it was misunderstood. Take him off mute and ask him the question again.
God. Matty's got me chuckling. If I hadn't laughed about it, I wouldn't have done that.
No, Nathan, I am not going to beg the question for a 4th time.
Thank you.
Anthony.
Chris.
Did you say the air has no mass? Or
No. Let's contextualize it. The atmospheric pressure argument is the reason why you guys believe that we can defy the second law of thermodynamics by having gas pressure next to a vacuum. And you say we don't have gas pressure next to a vacuum; we have atmospheric pressure. That's a begging the. It's a special pleadings argument in the sense that you guys say it's the weight of the atmosphere pushing down on the Earth. But when you look at the definition for weight in your physics model for this Earth that you believe that we're on. Weight is mass times the little g. Now, I was prepared and accepted to give you little g just so that we could talk about mass. But you haven't got mass with the air because you haven't got any intermolecular bonds to create the mass. And when the particles are zipping around in all directions at really fast speeds, there's nothing pushing down on nothing because everything's been like bouncing around in all directions. So you haven't really got any mass. So you can't satisfy the definition for weight.
Have you ever seen the damage a storm or a hurricane or a tornado?
Pardon? Say that again, Chris.
Right, you've seen like a storm ripping roofs off the house.
Yeah.
So there you go. Obviously, air has.
No, if air had mass, Chris, you'd be able to put a set of scales on the floor and you'd be able to weigh it. Like you're watching them pull roof tiles off while in the middle of a high pressure and a low pressure mixing. That's not demonstrating weight or mass.
Would that be the amount
Yes,
of
it is.
collisions
Right.
that's
So
occurring on there?
why would the storm rip the roof off of a house?
Pressure.
Because
pressure.
high pressure, low pressure.
Just explain that. He doesn't listen. He just said pressure, not weight. Pressure. Air pressure. Differential pressure.
Velocity.
Air pressure. Right. So if we have a high pressure system coming in without a storm, that's going to rip roofs off houses.
No, that creates
Sometimes.
wind.
Yeah, and
If the pressure differential was big enough.
pressure can rip things apart. Yes, that's right. Pressing, pushing,
Pressure can
a force.
rip-
Yes, that's right.
And pressure
And-
differential from one area to another.
Okay.
And does this have a point?
Yes, I disagree that pressure can rip the roof off of a house without the presence of a severe storm. And
sorry, your basic, your primary school understanding of weather isn't going to get debated about, right? This is pretty clear that you don't understand what weather is. You're saying you don't believe that pressure can take the roof off a house. Okay, yeah, right. You don't know what weather is. You don't know what wind is. Okay, we get it. No worries. I don't want to give you a rudimentary education in weather.
Nathan, do you understand that during a very hot day we have high pressure, right?
Yeah. We've gone through this once, and there wasn't any point at the end of this, was there? Other than you denying that pressure can take the roof off a house.
Move on then.
So there wasn't any point to any of this then. Well, that was worthwhile.
Yeah, okay.
Chris, would you agree that have you seen my Pop Goes Your Model video where I sang and now it started a bit of a sing off with the ballers? But have you seen that video where I demonstrate that if you have a vacuum in a tube and it's separated by a tap from a bit of gas pressure in another tube, and when you open the tap, it immediately equalizes, and that indicates that we cannot have gas pressure next to a vacuum without some kind of barrier.
Do you know what? But Anthony, you understand the vacuums don't suck, right?
It's not that it's sucking or being pushed into, it's the differential that's the issue. You can't have one next to the other without a barrier of some kind. In this case, it was a tap.
But when we're talking about a pressurized system next to a vacuum, i.e. space, we're not talking about one atmosphere of pressure, right? Like we have at sea level. We don't. That's not what we have. We have a pressure gradient which gradually gets smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where we have essentially vacuum.
Chris, let me interrupt you rudely. The 14.71 atmosphere that we have at ground level is pushing up in all directions against the Earth, and it's all going into space. So if you think it's only the top layer of little molecules going into space, you're mistaken, because otherwise that means that all of the pressure below it would all be zero, because none of it would be pushing it up from the ground. But we have 14.7. So that's a massive differential relative to space, and all of the atmosphere is pushing into it.
Yeah, it's not just the pressure difference, it's also the spatial difference.
All right, on you go, Aaron.
Not just the pressure differential, it's also the amount of space that's supposed to be out there compared to the space on this Earth with this pressure. Combining those two make it massive.
So we need a dome then? We need a dome?
No, we need some kind of containment.
Just a container. You don't have to call it a dome.
So it could be a layer of ice. Why is it that the atmosphere, the atmosphere at sea level doesn't equalize with the atmospheric pressure at the top of Mount Everest, for example?
Just explain that with my kettle analogy. Did you not understand the kettle analogy?
I've not heard of that one before, no.
I said it only about 5 minutes ago. You weren't on deafen. You just obviously buggered off.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Chris, I want you to imagine that the spout of the kettle where the steam comes out of, that would be sea level. And I want you to imagine that the top of Mount Everest would be, say, 10 meters above the kettle. Nathan, do you want to give your analogy?
Why? He's just chuckling already. You've got a kettle. It's releasing... He's going to talk through it.
Why are you in the background laughing when you're the one asking questions?
He's asking questions, get an answer.
You need to kick him.
Serious?
No, don't kick him. Keep him in. This is
Fuck this guy, man. Why does he keep laughing like that? Like, what's wrong with him?
Well, it's making it sound terrible. Keep him in. He's making it sound terrible when he's presented with a counter for why the air pressure doesn't burst up to Mount Everest. If he then starts laughing, then it just means he either doesn't understand the counter or he realizes he's cornered and losing.
Well, the gas does make its way up to the top of Everest. In the same way, my kettle analogy is highest concentration at the spout of the kettle, where the gas is being produced, and of a much lower concentration higher up. But the gas does indeed make its way up there, despite being produced at ground level. It's all going up. Amazing that, considering we're supposed to have this overriding 9.8 meters per second downward force. But nevertheless, the gas still makes its way to the top of Everest now, doesn't it? Up. From ground level.
I don't think it's a fair analogy. What
are you talking about? It's not an analogy. It's not an analogy, you dumbo. No, the gas does definitely make its way up to the top of Everest, though, doesn't it? Even though it's produced at ground level. Not very much vegetation producing gases now at the top of Everest. It's pretty barren, in fact. But yet there's still gas there. People can breathe up there. It's amazing. There's gas up there. None of it's getting produced up there, though. Amazing. How does it make its way up to Everest, given that we've got this stupid force claimed of gravity? Why isn't it stopping it getting to the top of Everest? The gas is going up. It's defying this stupidity of gravity, mate. Up, up, up it goes to the top of Mount Everest.
It doesn't go up.
Oh, it doesn't? So you think gases are produced at the top of Mount Everest, do you? What biological process is taking place at the top of Everest, you dumb fuck? Oh, there aren't any, but there's still gas there.
We have a desert, right?
So it's going up then, mate. It's going up. Yeah, you're going to ever address me or just talk through me? The gas has made its way up, hasn't it? So what happened to gravity? Excuse me, mate. Excuse me. I'm asking you a question. You're just going to talk through it because you can detect that tone again. It's made its way up. Up! Not down, like gravity. There's no down, down, boom, boom with this gas, is there? It's making its way to the top of Everest. How's that happening?
Let me respond then. So, Nathan, we have the Sahara Desert, right? No vegetation it grows in the Sahara Desert. So, is the sand producing?
So we're talking about Everest. You're going to sidetrack away from your own example. You were talking about Everest. Now you've moved away as far as you can possibly to a different climate. Your last chance, you just talk through every single reply. We weren't talking about the Sahara. And now he goes, right, last chance. Chris, we weren't talking about the Sahara. Your example was of Everest. And I'm saying there's gas there. It's made its way up the mountain in total defiance of gravity. What gives?
All right, I wanted to ask Randy.
We're not getting an answer. This is another stony silence with no response to my question. I've just about managed to get through with continual interruption from him. Yeah, I'm asking how this magic gas is defying gravity. It wasn't an analogy. It's what actually happens. There is gas at the top of Everest. Ever going to address it?
I can't answer.
Chris, you just got spanked.
Yeah, sure.
Sit down.
So, Randy,
sit down, Chris, you stupid boy.
You got spanked or depart from the
I want to ask
channel.
Randy something, please, Meryl. So, Randy,
Why? Why are you now in the driving seat, you stupid dick? Chris, what the hell thinks you've now got the right to hold on to the mic? Having asserted total stupidity and had to interrupt me while I'm taking it apart for 10 minutes straight. Now you think you deserve the mic? Shut up! Don't laugh. Shut up. Sit down. Understand how stupid you are. No, you can't. I have to shut him up, Anthony. He won't shut up. We can't move on with the conversation. He thinks that he's going to now dictate the way this conversation rolls. Like what, you're going to pick up and start asking us stuff? You stupid idiot. No.
I just want your proof. Just bring your proof.
Fails left, right and centre and then thinks he's got the chance to take the soapbox. What the hell?
You know, we're showing proof every day. Just bring your proof. You're not bringing it. You don't need to ask us questions.
Gas fills the entire container, which includes the Sahara Desert. Done. That's it.
Yeah, right. Not that matters. It wasn't... yeah.
Taking questions from somebody who asserted soundly like it's 2015. That's retarded.
According to gravity, we've got stuff that's got mass following this geodesic towards the centre of Earth. Yet gas production takes place at ground level and makes its way to the top of Everest. It's incredible. No 9.8 metres per second down, boom, boom are being applied to this gas that's being produced at ground and going up in total defiance of their fundy religious belief in this not force that you can think of as a force that suddenly stops taking hold of the mass that is the air. It's still got mass. And you've got this giant claim to be spherical mass of Earth that apparently everything's heading towards. But my bad, it isn't. It still makes its way to the top of Everest. Response, oh, there isn't one. Yeah, gravity's taking a day off when it comes to gas. The mass of the gas, individual or otherwise, isn't having any force applied to it. It's expanding randomly and freely in all directions. Yeah, that completely debunks any assertion of a force. The fact that we still have that gas proves that space is fake, more importantly.
So, Nathan, Are you aware you're an icon now?
What's an icon?
Okay, can you present my screen?
Sure.
All right.
That's not me.
What can you guys see here?
It's not me. I'm far better looking.
It's impressive, no? I mean, you're an icon to ballers now.
I don't understand. You're gonna have to give me more context, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm
the
just
wall
saying,
behind
like,
him, there's
you're
a jump.
popular. You're like, you made it to like the mainstream almost.
Oh, he's got the little the
jump behind
bust
him.
behind
Yeah.
him. Oh my god.
Oh my god, he's got a bust of me. That's
I want to know what
slightly creepy.
What the hell is that microphone he's got? Right, it looks like a rat round his neck.
That's creepy.
I never showed you these busts. Somebody sent me pictures of this. They've made busts of you guys. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
I mean, you feel honored, right?
Not really. It's weird.
No.
He's trying to cash in on your merchandise, Nate.
It's not my merchandise. I haven't made that bust.
It's your figure. I mean, it's your face.
Guess you need to copyright your image, Nathan, so you can get
Well,
money and royalties off of it.
I think God has the copyright on Nathan's image.
No, Satan does.
Excuse me.
Well,
with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in live on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, live stream rather, for hopefully smashing the super chat. In fact, I should read out some of these super chats. I didn't read any of them. So, you are a hero for destroying the demonic globe zombie mind, says Earth is seriously flat. Thank you very much for your super chat. Also, Alexander says, where is the curve? Where? Winky face. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. After forcing the line for 30 plus years, the Earth is not spherical. No measurable curvature, says KP Masonry. Thank you very much indeed also for your super chat. Stay tuned if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, as there will be an after show to follow. But as I say, unfortunately, if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley, this is where I bid you farewell. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making this live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Shout out to Retro Bill, who says last super chat.